How many times has this happened to you? You find a new thing, maybe it's a new skill like learning how to edit videos, or possibly learning an instrument, or learning how to vibe code apps with AI. And maybe for a week, or possibly two, if you're really fired up, you become obsessed with this thing and learning everything you can about it. You just got all the right gear and everything's gonna be just right. And you might even start telling some family and friends on the side, hey, I've got this really cool idea that I'm really just excited about. And you can already picture where this is gonna take you in your life and how much it's gonna improve your life and how excited you are when it's gonna eventually work out. And then, well, week 3 hits. Turns out to be a lot harder than you thought it would be. The results aren't showing up. You're putting in all this time and effort and the needle is just barely moving centimeters. And sometimes it seems to regress at times. A little voice comes into the back of your head, or possibly this giant feeling that, why doesn't this work? Why isn't this working for me? There's gotta be something else that will work a little bit better and a little bit quicker. Maybe this one just doesn't work because it just doesn't work for me. Just like that, you're off to the races with finding your next new shiny thing that you can delve all of your time and effort into, and you start the whole process. Again, if that hit just a tiny bit too close to home, I want you to hear me say this. You're not being lazy and there's not this huge problem with you. And quite truthfully, it's not even a focus problem. All you have is a timing problem. You keep quitting at the exact moment that guarantees you're never going to win. The incredibly weird part is that your own brain is hiding that moment from you on purpose. There is a provable reason why you can't see it coming. So in the next few minutes, I'm gonna show you 3 things. 1, the hidden spot where you always keep bailing and the reason that it feels so right to bail at that moment. 2, the lie that you've been told as a kid that's kind of been wrecking your motivation and perseverance your whole life. And 3, a dead simple way to continue persevering at that moment when you should not be bailing, without forcing you to do something you secretly hate your entire life. Stick with me because the last part really is what shifts everything on its head and how you can move forward and see a lot of progress in your life. First, let's name the loop that you always seem to get stuck into, because once you name it and see it, you can't ever unsee it. Every new thing that you start, it's the same shape. At the beginning, there's the honeymoon, and everything seems exciting, fresh, and new. You're learning really fast and you're seeing some small little wins and everything, it honestly just feels amazing. And then you hit that wall. The easiness, the gains of just the simple little things, they're gone, and you actually have some stuff that you have to trudge through. And then it's just work. It's not as fancy, not as exciting. It's boring and repetitive and mind-numbing at times and gut-wrenching with seemingly no wins at all for a long time. Right at that wall that you hit, you start getting those thoughts in your head that maybe there's something else that could be a little bit easier or a little bit better than this. A new idea just grabs hold and you can't stop thinking about it. And so you feel like this is the new direction I have to go because I'm being called to it. And the new idea looks shiny and it's promising and you don't know because you haven't done it yet. So you gotta start researching it and really dive into it. So you jump from this one thing where you hit the wall to the next thing that doesn't have a wall yet. And this new thing that you just jumped into, it's exciting and new again. You're seeing these small wins again. You're now back in the honeymoon phase with this new idea. And this whole loop is going to start over once again. Problem with this is you're not actually making progress on a straight line. You're going in a perpetual loop, and it feels good at some points of that loop, and other times it doesn't feel good at all because you recognize I'm not moving forward in anything. The question that you should ask yourself that will set you apart from the majority of people: why does this new thing, insert whatever idea it is, why does this new thing always look better than the thing you are currently getting into? Why does it feel like this one is so much better? And you've got to be honest with yourself about it. You can't say, well, it just has all these other things going for it. You really don't know until you get into it. And so you got to start getting into it, right? Be honest here. Is it really all those things, or is it because you've hit your wall here? This is harder than I realized. This has unlimited potential because I haven't seen that wall yet, and it's gonna be there, but I don't know it yet. Have a true conversation with yourself of, is this something just like that? And this is where it gets a little bit crazy because it's not a personality flaw of yours. It's chemistry. Most of us have heard about dopamine, goes into your head and it gets you excited about things. Most people call it the pleasure chemical. It's the thing that makes you feel good about things. But it actually doesn't really do that. There's scientists who study this. One of the researchers, his name is Kent Berridge. I think I'm saying his last name right. Found that dopamine isn't the chemical of liking something. It's the chemical of wanting something. That is a completely different system. Liking something is the satisfaction you feel of actually enjoying something, and wanting something is the itch or the chase of, I've got to have this thing, I've got to go after it. The difficult reality is that the liking system isn't quite as strong as the wanting system. Your brain is better at getting you to chase something new than staying and enjoying the thing that you already have. Unfortunately, it gets a little bit worse. Dopamine fires hardest when it is searching for something new and unfamiliar. Your brand new idea that you have is just, it's lighting lighting up your mind like a slot machine. The dopamine for your old idea slowly dies down and the excitement wears off, and it's old and it's not fun anymore. But this new thing, now this is where it's at. And so this gives you a signal, a sign that you're supposed to leave this and go on to this other thing and pursue your passion. This so-called seeking system that your brain gets you into, there's something kind of nasty about it. There's no off switch. There is no flick of a switch to turn it off and on. That'd be kind of nice. There's no built-in, okay, I'm satisfied now. I'm good. I'm going to stick with this. It keeps staying on. That's why YouTube Shorts and TikTok and Reels and all that, you can scroll endlessly, never feel fully satisfied. You always want to see something more. Your brain wasn't really built to feel done. It's kind of built around continuing to chase things. You should ingrain into your mind, excitement is just a signal that you found something new. This new idea just hasn't gotten boring yet. Every single idea and new skill and new thing that you get into is going to have a wall. Everything has it. The grass is not greener over there. You haven't gotten over there to mow the yard to see all the things that are wrong with the yard. So that's the engine. That's the thing going on in your mind and the reason behind this incessant feel of continuing to need to do something different than what you're currently working on. Now let's talk about the great lie that you were told as a kid and it's just made it so you haven't been able to stick with things throughout your whole life. Probably heard that it takes about 21 days to build a habit, which happens to be 3 weeks. That number is everywhere, and the problem is that it's basically made up. It actually comes from a plastic surgeon back in the 1960s. He noticed that after about 3 weeks past surgery, that people, after staring at themselves in the mirror for about 3 weeks, they finally became accustomed to their new look. And that's the whole reason behind it. The 3 weeks, the 21 days, that's the reason. He wrote it down in a book and it got published. People ran with it because it's new, fun, exciting ideas and information, so people posted it. And then it takes 3 weeks to become accustomed to your new face, to it takes 3 weeks to build a habit. That information was never about building a new skill or getting results for a business, anything like that. It was about getting used to a new face. So with that being true, how long does it actually take to stick to this habit and grow in your skill and your ability past that wall point? The research has already been done by some researchers over in London. And what they did is they followed people who were trying to start a new habit and how long it actually took them for it to become automatic, for them to be doing this new thing. And the average was a lot more than the 21 days that we're accustomed to hearing about. It was 66 days, 3 times the amount that is the standard thing that everyone talks about, 21 days. That was the average. The range is actually huge. For some of them, it took up to 254 days. Digest that and think about that. For some people in life, and not because they weren't trying, but for some people, it takes a long time to form a habit, to get into a new skill, a new hobby, and to become automatic with it, to feel very familiar and comfortable with it. You've been giving up on these skills and these ideas within 2 to 3 weeks. What people tend to do is that they give up the race before they even really see the starting line. And so you didn't actually fail at the thing, you just quit before the thing had a chance to start working. And there's a beautiful little detail from that study that I actually really like. They found that if you missed a day here or there, that it actually didn't ruin the whole process. It didn't ruin your ability to continue to progress. You could actually be okay and continue moving forward even amidst not being perfect at the thing. Just missing once or twice or not doing it just perfect doesn't ruin the chain. What ruins it is quitting after messing up a little bit or deciding it's not quite for you. And now you know 2 very important things. 1, your brain is chemically wired to want the new thing very badly and to give up on the old thing. And 2, the timeline that you've been using to say whether or not something is working or should be working is a complete fantasy. It's not this arbitrary number of 3 weeks or a month or whatever it is. It can be a lot longer. It can be a lot sooner sometimes, but it normally is a lot longer. So that brings us to the most important point of this whole video. There's a guy named Seth Godin, maybe you've heard of him, and he wrote this small little book called The Dip. In it, he describes the exact thing that we've been talking about, the wall that you hit. He calls it, as you might have guessed from the name of the book, the dip is the long, very difficult, hard, boring process of actually getting good at something. The gap between the beginner's high and actually being skilled at something. Every single thing that is worth pursuing does have this process to it. Learning an instrument, starting a different type of business, or possibly getting into shape. Any of these skills or things that you want to pursue in your life is going to have this dip. It is a valley where you have a long period, a long process where you don't get these applause and you don't have this recognition or these small wins. It's just a lot of hard work that you got to go through. And here's the thing that you have to get in your head, that the dip isn't a problem. It's not a bug in the system. It's the whole point. It's getting through the difficult. It's learning and growing through that difficult process. You stopped while you were in that dip, that difficult part of learning and growing. That's what most people do. If you were able to overcome that, you have a skill or a business that is viable, that is worthwhile. If it was easy and at a flick of a switch you had it, then there's no value there. Then everyone could do it, and you wouldn't have anything either to sell in a business, or you wouldn't have a skill that you could market or use. It would be worth nothing to yourself and to everyone else because it's just, there's nothing to it. There's no substance. And this dip is what scares a lot of people off, but that's what's funny about it, is because without that, you're not going to get to this thing that you really want. It has to be there. When you're in this valley and you're going through this difficult stuff and you feel like these things aren't working and is this even worthwhile? Remember that the feeling of being in the valley, of going through the difficult process and the drudgery and not seeing the success that you're wanting doesn't mean that you picked the wrong thing to get into. It just means that you're going through the process. That feeling is essentially a toll booth that you gotta pay to come out on the other end and have the skill and the business that people are going to pay for, or that you're excited to have, that is worthwhile to everyone else. Seth Godin summed it up in a nice way. He said that a woodpecker could tap on 1,000 different trees 20 times each and still go to bed hungry. Or it can tap on one single tree 20,000 times and eat. It's the same number of taps in both scenarios, but a completely different end result. The difference isn't effort. It's putting in the same amount of effort, possibly even more effort, to go from tree to tree. The only thing is whether or not it's going to drive the effort into one single point or a ton of different ones. The thing that most people do, you and I, we tap on 1,000 different trees instead of just focusing in on one. He also drew this line about 2 different types of quitting. There's the reactive quitting because the dopamine kind of fell off and you got sick of something and it was difficult, so you stopped. And then there is the strategic quitting. What this is quitting on purpose with a clear head because you know for a fact, for a surety, this is something that I'm not just jumping ship because it's difficult, because you've gone through all of that, you've done the difficult stuff, but you realize that this other path truly is the one that you know is the right way to go, and you're gonna stick with it in the long, long haul. Reactive quitting is the thing that you don't realize is happening that's quietly ruining your life. And the sad thing is that most reactive quitters, most people, don't realize that it's happening to them. They think they're being smart about things and they're trying things out and always doing the new thing. Not every single thought and idea that comes into your head deserves just trudging forward forever in that direction. Seth Godin says there's basically 2 situations here, and they look the same on the inside, but they're actually completely different. One is the dip, but the other is the dead end. A road that just doesn't end and there's nothing to it. There's no point to it. No matter how hard that you keep on pushing and trying. He calls that the cul-de-sac because it's just essentially a loop that brings you right back to where you started. How can you tell that if this new idea is that, or is it really just the shiny object, the, hey, I should try this new thing because the dopamine has worn off on this other idea? How do you know the difference? Well, there's a question that you need to ask yourself. If this path is worth taking at all, if at the end of the path you're happy with where you end up. So if you want to become, for example, a YouTuber, are you gonna put in the time and effort that other people have put in to get the success that you want at the end of the road? If you're truly happy with the time and effort that it takes, then go for it and keep going and don't stop. But if you don't want that end goal, you have to figure out what that end goal of your life you want to be. So when you have to quit something, do it with purpose and truly think about it, and quit fast and quit often if there's a ton of thoughts coming into your mind that you know don't lead to the end goal that you want for your life and where you want to be. But make sure the skill or the business or whatever it is that you want to have in your life at the end path of this road you're going to take, make sure that's what you want, and then commit to it and stick to it. Most people do the opposite of this. They quit the thing, the road that they know has the success at the end of it that they want, they've always desired. They quit that path and they go to this other thing that it's like, well, that sounds kind of nice, I think. Let's just try it out. If they really thought about it, this path probably wasn't going to have the end goal that they even wanted in the first place. It feels like the time and effort that you put in doesn't seem to pay off, that it doesn't seem to get you anywhere. Because this does trip a lot of people up. And yes, we're talking about the valley a little bit, but we're talking in a deeper sense of how you can continue forward and get past that. Probably heard about the 10,000 hour rule, that it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at any one skill. That concept actually came from a writer named Malcolm Gladwell, who did that study based on violinists. But here's the thing that almost nobody talks about or knows, is that the scientist who ran the study, a guy named Anders Ericsson, came out and said that Gladwell actually got it wrong. It was never really about the hours put in. Two different people can put in the same amount of hours and get wildly different results. The thing that mattered wasn't the actual time put in, but the deliberate practice that people would put in. It's not just doing it for the heck of it. It's not doing the same thing over and over that you already know how to do. It's improving. You're constantly working at the very edge of your capabilities and your limits so that you can push past them. You find your weak spots and you improve them. You see the parts that you're not very good at, you put it under a microscope and you analyze it and you improve it over and over and over. It's not a very comfortable thing to do because you're not good at those things. It's part of that dip. And so it requires hard work and effort to get past the things that you're not very good at. And this is huge because this is the trap that a lot of people fall into. They just stick with doing the same thing over and over that they already are good at. YouTubers, for example, people don't get very good at YouTube because they continue to produce the same videos. You've probably seen channels before that they have thousands of videos, but not many subscribers and not very many views on any of the videos. That's someone who's put in the time and the effort, but hasn't deliberately practiced their craft and gotten better. And what they do is they go through the motions. Going through the motions of the things you already have a habit for, that's automatic to you, it's not going to improve anything. You're not going to get new results. You got to be outside of your comfort zone and then start putting in the reps. The skill or the business or the channel that you're trying to put together, doesn't feel like it's stretching you and becoming more and more difficult, then you're doing something wrong. You're kind of just hanging out, doing things for the heck of it and staying in that comfort zone, which there's no growth in and everyone can do. I told you at the end of this video, things get flipped around and I'm going to discuss that now. You're curious about millions of different things, and that's human nature. That's okay. You feel like you're supposed to focus in on one thing, but you just can't because you got all these fun ideas. And society actually makes you feel like you're supposed to focus in on one thing when you're 5 years old. They say, what do you want to be when you grow up? Like you're only allowed to have one skill or hobby in your life. There's a writer named Emily Wapnick. All these writers have some weird last names, and I have a hard time saying them, so I'm hoping that I say them slightly correct, but who knows? She points out that some people are just not wired to have one single calling, one single skill or business in their life. They're actually wired for a lot of different skills and abilities. She calls these people something that's difficult to say, multi-potentialities. And all that are people who have a ton of different interests in life. And her whole point is that this isn't a flaw that needs to be fixed, it's actually a benefit. People that are wired this way have a real advantage in life if they utilize it correctly. They're great at connecting a lot of different ideas from different worlds to bring them together and create something new and cohesive. And they're usually pretty fast learners because they start so many different things. So your wide curiosity in a lot of different things isn't a bad thing necessarily if you channel it correctly. The problem was treating every interest like a life sentence. It sounds slightly counterintuitive, but stick with me for just a second. Pick something and it feels like a life sentence and you have to stick with it for the rest of your life. And that pressure that you put on yourself is exactly what makes you bolt to something else, because if this thing gets a little bit boring or a little bit difficult and it doesn't feel quite right as you hit that wall, it's like, whoa, if I'm gonna do this forever, then it has to be just the right thing. Don't smother your curiosity, just tailor it to the right things. Don't let your curiosity take control of the car and drive it away at every red light. How can you actually do that? There's a simple game plan that you can start right now. First, pick one thing and stick to it for a season. Not forever, for a season. Don't say that this is your life now. This is the forever thing that you're going to have to do the rest of your life. Just say, I literally cannot do anything else for 90 days, for this season of time. Or whatever amount of time you want to say. There's no jumping ship. There's no getting excited about this other idea. You are sticking to this for the 90 days and you're actually putting in time and effort. And it's okay if you miss a day here or there, but you're sticking to it for a solid 90 days. And that's all it is. You're not confined to this forever. You're gonna actually give it the runway that it needs to progress. This is way easier to stick to than saying, I have to do this the rest of my life. The second thing that you have to do is decide what results actually look like. If you're doing a YouTube channel, you can't say, well, I'm not at 1 million subscribers in 90 days, or whatever goal you say there, make it realistic. If you say, I'm gonna truly try this for 90 days, well, what does that actually look like? Let's say it's 10 long form videos and maybe 30 short form videos, and see where that gets you. And being realistic with where that gets you. If that gets you 100 subscribers, that's a win. That's a good thing. That means there's progress that has been made and people resound with what you're saying and you can actually keep going with it. Be sure and write down this progress so that you can see it, because a lot of times as humans, we tend to forget how much progress we've actually made. Third thing, make a small, almost embarrassingly small thing that you have to do every single day, an action that you have to take. The goal is to not break the chain, even though it's okay if it does happen here and there, but the goal is to not break that chain. If you do slip up, don't stop. Just keep going and resume where you were at. Fourth thing, and this actually is important, decide while you're calm and you're in the right frame of mind and something is exciting and fresh and new, decide what your true quit terms are instead of doing it when you're in the moment and you're bored of it and the dopamine falls off a cliff. What is going to be the reason that you would quit this versus going to something else? All you're setting up is rules and processes that you're going to follow, and if you follow them and there's success at the end, fantastic, stick with it. And if there's not, you've already set up the process saying, well, I am quitting because I decided these things and this hasn't happened, so I do want to go into this other direction and give it the proper amount of time and effort that it should take as well. And the last thing is, if you have tons of concepts and ideas and exciting things that you want to try out in life, they're not forever gone. They're just farther down the line. Keep a list. Keep a someday I'll try this out list. And when you have time to be able to do it and you've already been successful in these other things and they're going good, then you can say, all right, what is next in this lineup of things? That small move will take all the power out of this shiny object syndrome that people have, and it'll put it in check. It'll say, all right, I've got this fun, exciting idea. Write it down on a list and say, one day I'll try this out. You need to decide, is the thing that you're currently working on the dip that you're in and you just need to persevere? Or is it actually time to quit and start this new thing? And if you do start one more new thing, make sure it has the end goal that you want. Have a structure in place for being successful, and you try it for long enough, 90 days, possibly more, because some people it takes up to 8 months or maybe even more. You also have an exit strategy saying, if I don't hit these marks, if things don't happen in this way, then I actually am going to quit this thing because it didn't produce the results expected. Don't believe the lie that the next thing's going to be easier, because it's not. Everything has its wall, but as long as you keep these things in mind, you're going to be able to progress in things much more so than the majority of people.